All right, before I start here, let me say that I'm not sure whether the audio and the video are syncing up just right in this recording, but I don't know if there's anything I can even do about it, even if I tried, and it's more important just to get this material up for you quickly. If it's distracting, my advice is to just listen to the audio. That's really the important part here. So what I'd like to do is consider a couple more points about relativism. In the last segments, what we did was we considered some arguments for relativism, right? Namely, the argument from disagreement and the argument from tolerance. And we critically considered those, and I suggested how, in various ways, those arguments weren't very strong. But what I'd like to do now is move on a bit and sort of more directly go after relativism. Instead of just critiquing arguments for relativism, I want to give some direct reasons against relativism for you to consider. And then maybe in this segment or another one, in the next one, I'm going to talk about just sort of clarify for you what it would be like for morality to be objective in the way that we're overall considering here. Clear up some confusions that you might have about that. There's going to be a test on Wednesday. I already announced that via an email, and all the review questions are up. I'm going to be adding. I'm thinking one more review question based on the material in this lecture and the next lecture, and you should, make sure you look at the questions and listen to the relevant segments in the uploaded lectures about those questions. In particular, there's some questions about the argument for disagreement. I discussed that at length in the lectures. I can't really do a better job here articulating, what I did there. Just go back and listen carefully to how my criticisms of the argument from disagreement, because there's a very good chance that I will be asking about those things on the test. So some students have trouble with, the objections to the argument for disagreement. And if you're confused, I encourage you to get in touch with me, to email me ASAP, given that the test is on Wednesday. And if we need to, maybe we can talk on the phone, or, I want to be accessible to folks, given that I haven't been around in the office, obviously. So let's see here. So we're going to consider two kind of direct lines of attack on relativism now. And sort of ironically, one comes from the idea of disagreement, right? So previously, we were considering how disagreement might be used as an argument for relativism, but now I want to consider how disagreement may be used to attack relativism, to suggest that relativism is false, right? So once again here, we start with an appeal to the fact that there is moral disagreement. Now, it doesn't matter if there's a ton of moral disagreement. It just, presumably there are some genuine moral disagreements. There are things about which people come to a conflict about a genuine moral proposition, right? And the idea here is that the way that this can be used against relativism is one can point out, look, there seems to be genuine disagreement amongst different groups of people, different individuals, different societies. There seems to be genuine disagreement, and relativism just simply can't make sense of that, right? So let's take an example of disagreement. So let's just use one of the examples I used earlier. I think that it's wrong to stone adulterous women to death. I think that's morally wrong. Certain groups apparently think that this is morally acceptable or morally required. That if there's an adulterous woman, it's morally acceptable or perhaps even required that she be stoned to death. Now, it seems like I'm having a genuine disagreement with these folks. Of course, I haven't sat down at a table and talked about this with them, but it seems like I believe something that is directly in conflict with something that they believe, right? And it's a moral thing. They seem to think it's morally acceptable to do this. I think it's not morally acceptable to do that. And that seems like a genuine disagreement. Now, the problem for relativism is that relativism has trouble making sense of this, right? I mean, if we're relativizing to, say, different societies. So for, people in my society, it's immoral to stone people to death, but for people in another society, namely the stoning society, it's morally acceptable, or it's morally right for them to stone people to death, then there's not really a conflict here, right? Because it's not immoral for them to do it on the relativist view. But I'm thinking that, look, it is immoral for them to do it. So the relativist view, we're kind of just, both sides are talking past each other, so to speak. There's not really a conflict. The conflict really becomes more like the things about, like how we were talking about the taste of foods. If you disagreed with a friend about, say, the taste of zucchini, and you thought, wow, the zucchini is really good, and your friend is saying, I don't like the zucchini. The zucchini is gross. And you both agree it's not the zucchini is rotten or something like that. It just turns out that your friend just doesn't enjoy that zucchini taste, while you do enjoy the taste of zucchini. Now, there's not any persistent, genuine disagreement once you get that sorted out, right? You can both agree, well, I like this taste, and your friend says, I don't like this taste. Okay, sure, no genuine conflict there. You can perfectly willingly admit, yes, friend, I see you don't enjoy the taste of zucchini. There's really not much more to say about that. Now, in the case of the stoning to death, right, stoning adulterous women to death, it's not as though I resolve the conflict is resolved by me just saying, well, I approve. Excuse me, I don't approve of stoning adulterous women to death, and they say, well, we do approve of it, and then I say, oh, okay, I see what's going on. It's just that I don't approve of it, and you do. Okay, fine. That there's nothing more to it. No, there is something more to it. Namely, I think I think about those people. You shouldn't approve of that. You shouldn't accept that. That's morally wrong for you to do that. And they on their side think, no, you're wrong. It is okay to do this. It is morally acceptable to do this. Maybe they even think it's morally required to do it. I'm not sure. So it seems as though we can't just sort of like resolve the disagreement by pointing out or coming to realize that one of us accepts or approves of the practice. There's something still lingering. There's still lingering a genuine disagreement there about the morality of the behavior, the morality of stoning someone to death for adultery. So relativism can't really make sense of this lingering disagreement. Because again, it's on the relativist view, it is morally acceptable for them to do it. And so, if I had to acknowledge that, then there would be nothing more to disagree about. But I'm not acknowledging that. It seems like there's a genuine dispute here about what the morally right thing is to do. So, anyway, without getting into more of the details about how exactly, we could spend quite a bit of time talking about, how relativists might try to make sense of disagreement or not. But the point is that there's a prima facie problem for the relativist here in terms of just making sense of what we take to be genuine moral disagreements. And I just used one example. We can think of a lot of different examples where it seems like we're having a genuine moral disagreement with another person, or two groups are having a genuine moral disagreement. And again, the relativist just doesn't seem to be positioned to make sense of this. Okay, so one quick further note on that is that the objective, the person who thinks morality is objective, can indeed straightforwardly make sense of this, right? The reason that there seems to be a disagreement between two groups is because there's a genuine objective moral fact that they're disagreeing about, and that straightforwardly makes sense of why they seem to be disagreeing about something, because they are. There is something that they're genuinely disagreeing about. Okay, so the second, I just wanted to make two direct lines of attack on relativism. That the one was from disagreement, and the second one has to do with the fallibility of our judgments. So let me see how we're doing on time. Yeah, we got enough time to talk about this. So let's see. we seem to be able to make mistakes morally, right? As individuals and as groups. So if you look back at your own life, you might recall times where you think, wow, that wasn't the right thing to do. I could have done better. And likewise, when we look at certain groups, various levels, local groups, or even whole nations or societies, we also see points where we think, well, yeah, that was not the right thing to do. The group could have done better. And what that suggests, at least on the face of it, and I think how we think of it on a common sense view, is that we do make moral mistakes and that we're morally fallible. We're prone to error, right? We're not perfect, at least. I'm not saying we're constantly making mistakes, but we can make mistakes sometimes, ones that are quite large and momentous. And the relativist, I think, has trouble making sense of this as well. So I'm worried about getting cut off because of time here. The YouTube has a limit on the how much the length of the videos that I can upload. So I want to keep talking about this fallibility issue, and I'm just going to put it into the next segment. So I will see you then. If I can figure out how to stop this. All right.